My next guest is Lowell Fox, creator of a lecture series called Classic Comedian. He's going to be presenting this series at the Rancho Mirage Library, and the first one will be on June 20th. We're going to get into the details, the time, and so forth. It's free of cost, folks. You know what a great job Rancho Mirage Library does. And Lowell's going to do a terrific job, too, because he's going to feature at his first event, the great Sid Caesar, who we all love. Now, Lowell's had a long career in media, in both sales and marketing, and he's here to tell us all about it and who the other classic comedians are and what we can expect at a lecture. Well, Lowell, welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start out, first of all, by talking about, we know that the event is on June 20th.
Right. It's going to be just in 2 days at 1:30 at the Rancho Mirage Library. Mm-hmm. And this will be the first of 3 lectures that I'll be doing there this summer. We have this one June 20th, and then July 19th will be Rancho Mirage's own, Bob Hope. And then in August 23, will be the fat one and the thin one, Laurel and Hardy.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. How are you going to present these? It's more than a lecture because you do videos, you do all sorts of stuff.
Absolutely.
So what are you going to be doing?
I've done an awful lot of research on each of these. So far, I've created 9 lectures on each, and I focus on an individual comedian each time. And I really delve into their whole lives, their early life, their rise to stardom, their foibles, their backstory, if you will, what happened to them at the end of their careers. And it's interspersed with lots of videos that I've gleaned from radio and television and movies, live performances. And then I've also unearthed lots of historical photos. So
terrific.
It's not just playing comedy bits. Anybody can do that.
Right.
But I want the people to laugh and reminisce and walk away, knowing a little bit more about these famous entertainers.
Yeah, and we see little bits and pieces of, for instance, Sid Caesar on television, and sometimes you can get these DVDs of snippets of his shows, but I know a lot has been lost, so anything new that you're bringing to it will be fantastic. Now, do you put all the videos together yourself, or do you have someone helping you with it?
These are all, from DVDs. Some of them come from YouTube, and they're all out there. You just got to dig to find them.
Yeah, but there's a lot of work in that because you've got to put all these little snippets together. So
Sure.
How do you do that?
Well, I spent a lot of time in my research reviewing everything that's out there and then narrowing it down to the ones that I think the audience, that are historically important, and then the audience will like. Historically important is an example. I've just finished doing my research on George Burns and Gracie Allen. So I have an old movie clip of them from their vaudeville days, and one of their famous old comedy bits called Lamb Chops, and they actually made a small little movie of that. And so I have that, and then I also have their very first television show, which I'll be showing snippets of.
What did you learn? Let's give a little hint to people. What did you learn about Sid Caesar that might have surprised you or that you enjoyed the most?
Well, he had a very interesting life. He was born to Jewish immigrants in Yonkers, New York. And one of the first things that happened in his life, his father owned a 24-hour luncheonette in Yonkers. And Yonkers was a working town of immigrant laborers working in local shops and factories. And young Sid would help his parents out by waiting on tables at this luncheonette. And each of the different ethnic groups would sit by themselves. And as Sid would walk by, he would pick up little sounds and distinct accents and things like that, and he learned to mimic these. So one day he went up to a group of Italians, and his head barely reaching above the table, started talking with them in an Italian accent, but it was all double talk.
Right.
And they loved it. And so they sent him over to a table of Poles, and he repeated it in Polish. And then he went on to Hungarians and Lithuanians and Frenchmen and Spaniards, etc. And everybody, couldn't quite figure out until they realized he was talking gibberish to
Well,
them.
I think that's the funniest thing when they show those snippets on TV and he's talking away and your ear says, oh, yeah, that's Italian. And then you say, wait a minute, he's not saying anything. He was so clever in doing that.
I show a video clip. It's the first video clip in the presentation of a famous bit he did called The German General. With Howie Morris dressing up this guy. I'm not going to tell you how it ends.
We'll see it at the library.
It's hilarious. And what's really fascinating about Sid is he spoke all these different double talk languages. In reality, he only spoke two languages, English and Yiddish.
Yes. Let's mention again the date and time of this at the Rancho Mirage Library. This is Lowell Fox that we're talking to. And if you're in your car on your way home, you can catch it live on the net on kptr1450.com.
So it'll be next Monday, in 2 days.
What's the date?
Monday the 20th of June. And at the Rancho Mirage Library. It begins at 1:30.
1:30.
And we'll go till about 3.
And it's free. Can you imagine seeing something like this and it's free? That Rancho Mirage Library does such wonderful things. I thought what was interesting, Lowell, when I asked you to send me some information, that when you came here, you got involved with the Osher, is it Osher?
Osher Lifelong Learning Institute.
Yes.
Right.
And what sort of things were you involved with that then inspired you to go on and do this?
Well, I moved to the desert. It's coming up on 3 years now, and I had heard by going to one of my local libraries and seeing one of their catalogs that they have an amazing wealth of courses that are available.
Yes, they do.
And it's not just for seniors, but seniors tend to populate most of the seats there in the classrooms.
Well, they have a little more time on their hands.
Exactly. And one of the premises, they call it lifelong learning, is to keep your brain active and learn new things. And it's not courses like how to send emails or use Word or Excel.
Right.
It's things having to do with the arts and with entertainment and with, there's courses on international film, on documentary film,
Opera,
art appreciation, photography, architecture, great American songwriters, some history, some philosophy, a little bit of religion and legal courses. And they're just so much fun, and you meet such wonderful people there. And so I took several semesters there, and they have 15 to 20 courses each quarter.
And where is that held?
They're mostly held at the Cal State University San Bernardino at the Palm Desert campus, which is on Cook, just south of the freeway. And I started taking these courses, and I said, you know what? So I could teach a course, and because of my background in sales and marketing, I'm used to making presentations, and it just popped into my head. Hey, why not one on classic comedians?
Well, that was great. So I think that's a good thing too, that you were inspired by this program to go on and do your own thing. So the next event after the June event is on what day?
That'll be July 19th.
And that's going to be Bob Hope?
That'll be Bob Hope.
Okay.
America's Entertainer.
And then there'll be another one?
August 23rd is Laurel and Hardy.
I love Laurel and Hardy, and they used to have all of their old movies on one of the TV networks, and I don't see them anymore.
Well, once in a while you find them, probably late night, or I'm not sure. I don't see them myself,
No.
I have to admit.
Well, if they're on late night, I'm sure not seeing it either, but they're one of my favorites. That's going to be a lot of fun, and then you're going to do George Burns.
Yeah, this fall, I'll be teaching 6 more sessions at Osher, and the ones I'm planning on teaching then will be, let me think here, we're starting with George Burns, and then Jack Benny. We'll do Lucille Ball, excuse me, and then we're going to do a 2-part lecture on the Marx Brothers, and then finish up with George Carlin. And the reason I'm doing 2 parts on the Marx Brothers is as I got into the research, there's so much information out there about them. First of all, we're profiling 5 people as opposed to 1 comedian.
And, of course, our own Bill Marx in the Valley here.
And that was the other part of it, is I decided to cut it into two parts. And in the second part, Bill is going to come in, son of Harpo.
Great.
And he's going to actually, I was over at Bill's house this morning chatting with him. And he's going to come in and talk about life with Harpo.
What's the one, is there any one comedian that you haven't really started researching yet that you're just so anxious to get into?
Well, I just finished George Burns and Gracie Allen.
Right,
and
right.
It was fascinating learning about them.
But one that you haven't started yet.
I would say what's coming up that probably is going to be the most interesting will be Lucille Ball.
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Right. I know there's going to be a wealth of information. So many books have been written about her, and there's so many videos that are out there. It's going to take me a while to delve into that.